My name is Olivia Park. I am 31 years old, and I work as an English teacher at a small high school in the quiet town of Riverpine. I live with my husband, Marcus, whom I married 6 years ago. He works as a business manager and often travels for short work trips, usually 2 or 3 days at a time. Our life has always felt peaceful and steady. We share a small house with a simple backyard garden where we drink tea on weekends. Most evenings, we cook dinner together, talk about our day, and enjoy the calm routine we have built over the years. I truly believed I was lucky. Our marriage felt stable, gentle, and full of trust. I thought I understood everything about the man I loved. As I begin this story, my heart is still calm. Yet I now realize that this calmness was only the quiet moment before a storm I never saw coming. Before everything changed, our days followed a simple and comforting rhythm. Every morning, Marcus woke up first and brewed a fresh pot of coffee. The smell always drifted into our bedroom, gently pulling me out of sleep. While he prepared the coffee, I made breakfast, nothing fancy, usually toast, eggs, or fruit. We rarely talked much during those early hours, but the quietness felt warm, like a shared language only we understood. After work, we returned home around the same time. Some evenings, we watched movies together, choosing old films we had seen many times but still loved. Other evenings, we stepped into our small garden. I watered the flowers, and Marcus trimmed the plants or checked the tomatoes he proudly grew each summer. It became our way of slowing down after long days. Weekends were our favorite part of the week. When Marcus didn't have a business trip, he often took me for a walk around Riverpine Lake. The air there was cool, the water calm, and the trees reflected beautifully on the surface. We held hands, talked about our dreams, and planned the future we believed we were building side by side. Marcus was thoughtful in many small ways. He always remembered anniversaries, birthdays, and even the day I got my teaching certificate. Sometimes I found a little note in my bag or a flower on my desk when he visited my school. Those gestures made me feel loved and safe. Because of that trust, we never checked each other's phones, messages, or emails. It never even crossed my mind. Our love felt quiet, steady, and unshakable. In those moments, I believed nothing could ever disturb the peace we had created together. The night it happened began like any other. Marcus had kissed me on the forehead before leaving and said he was on the way to Grey Hill for a 2-day business trip. Grey Hill was a city 3 hours away, a place he often visited for work. I didn't question it. I never had a reason to. After dinner, I sat on the couch with my laptop and opened the live stream of a local café I loved. They streamed acoustic music every evening, and it had become part of my nightly routine. The soft guitar, the warm lights, the quiet chatter, it always helped me relax. I remember smiling at the screen, completely at ease. But then the camera panned slowly toward the entrance door. And my whole world froze. Marcus walked in. Not a man who looked like him. Not someone vaguely similar. It was absolutely him. He wasn't wearing his usual business trip outfit. No dress shirt, no laptop bag. Instead, he wore a casual jacket, the one he usually saved for weekends. For a moment, I just stared, blinking rapidly, trying to convince myself that the camera angle was misleading or the livestream was old. But it wasn't. Because right behind him, a woman stepped through the door, someone I had never seen before. She walked straight to Marcus and sat beside him, close enough that their shoulders touched. He leaned toward her as if it was the most natural thing in the world. I felt my heart drop into my stomach. My hands trembled as I grabbed the timeline and rewound the livestream. I watched it again. And again. 10 times, maybe more. Each time, the truth became clearer. Marcus wasn't in Grey Hill. He wasn't on a business trip. He was here, in our town, sitting in a café just 15 minutes from our house, smiling with another woman. At that exact moment, my phone buzzed. A message from Marcus appeared on the screen. Just arrived. Probably busy with meetings all night. Don't wait up. The contrast between the message and what I was seeing felt like a punch to the chest. Confusion rushed in first. Then fear. Then a cold, shaking anger that spread slowly through my whole body. I began replaying memories in my head, the business trips that seemed too frequent, the sudden schedule changes, the late-night calls he always took outside, the way he told me not to wait for him because work was unpredictable. All those small things I once ignored now connected into one terrifying thought. Maybe this wasn't the first time he had lied. Maybe the man I trusted completely had been hiding something for months. When the livestream switched to another camera angle, I realized I was crying, quietly, uncontrollably. The shock wrapped around me like a tight, suffocating rope. And in that moment, the peaceful life I believed in shattered for the very first time. I didn't confront Marcus right away. A part of me needed certainty, needed to see him, hear his voice, look into his eyes before everything fell apart. So I stayed silent, carrying the truth alone for 2 long days. When he finally returned from his business trip, he walked into the house looking tired, or maybe pretending to be. He kissed my cheek and said Greyhill had been exhausting. I simply nodded. Then I asked calmly, how was the weather in Greyhill? He blinked. Rainy. Very rainy. But I had checked. Greyhill had been dry and sunny for a week. I asked him which hotel he stayed in. He named a place that didn't even exist on the map. Small cracks. Tiny lies. Each one slicing deeper. I felt strangely calm, as if I were watching the scene from outside my own body. Maybe shock can make you quiet. Maybe heartbreak can make you gentle. Finally, I took my phone, opened the live stream I had saved, and placed it on the table in front of him. Marcus, I said softly, can you explain this? He stared at the screen. The image of him walking into the café. The woman beside him. Their bodies leaning close. His unmistakable smile. For a moment, he didn't breathe. Then he whispered, "It's not what you think." He said he had been meeting a client. He said the woman was just a coworker. He said the video was misleading. Excuses poured out of his mouth so quickly they tripped over each other. But his eyes, those eyes that once looked at me with warmth, were trembling. I asked, clearly and without anger, "Marcus, are you having an affair?" The silence that followed felt endless. My heartbeat echoed like a drum in my ears. He looked down, rubbing his hands together, his breathing uneven. Then he said the words that broke the last piece of us. "Yes. Her name is Lila. I've been seeing her for a little more than a year." I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just felt something inside me detach, like a thread finally snapping after being pulled too tight for too long. A strange quietness filled the room. I slid my wedding ring off my finger. It felt heavier than ever. I placed it gently on the dining table, the same table where we had shared dinner, laughter, plans, and dreams. "I can't live with this lie," I said. "I won't." Marcus looked at me with panic, but it was too late. The truth had rewritten everything. I walked out of the house with only a small bag, leaving behind the life I thought I would keep forever. And just like that, my marriage ended. Not with a fight, but with truth, silence, and the sound of a door closing softly behind me. I moved into my best friend Nora's small apartment, carrying nothing but a suitcase and a heart that felt too heavy to hold. The first nights were the hardest. I lay awake for hours, listening to the quiet hum of the city outside, wondering how the life I knew had ended so suddenly. I could not sleep. I could not eat. I could not bring myself to prepare lessons for my students. Every morning, Nora placed a cup of warm tea on my bedside table. She never pushed me to talk, but she stayed close, a steady presence in a world that suddenly felt unstable. Still, I blamed myself for everything. I asked the same painful questions again and again. What did I fail to notice? Was I not enough? Did I push him away? Days passed, and Nora finally sat me down on the balcony. She told me gently, "You didn't lose Marcus. You lost someone who chose to leave long before you knew." Her words didn't erase the pain, but they cleared a small space inside my chest, enough to breathe again. When I eventually returned to school, my students greeted me with drawings, letters, and shy smiles. Their kindness reminded me that I was more than a broken wife. I was a teacher they trusted. I was a friend people leaned on. I was a woman who had given love honestly, even when it wasn't returned. Nights at Nora's slowly became less suffocating. I began journaling again, something I had stopped doing years ago. As I filled those pages, I saw a pattern I had ignored. I had spent too long measuring my worth through Marcus's approval, instead of recognizing my own strengths. Little by little, the fog inside me lifted. The pain didn't disappear, but it settled into a quiet place where it could no longer control me. And for the first time in months, I looked at myself in the mirror and thought, I am still here. And I am enough. The first real step toward healing came quietly, almost unnoticed. One morning, I rolled out a yoga mat in Nora's living room and followed a simple beginner routine. My body trembled, my breaths were uneven, but for the first time in a long while, I felt connected to myself again. Yoga became my small daily promise, a way to greet each day with intention instead of fear. Soon after, I joined an acoustic music class at a community center. The soft strumming of guitars, the gentle tapping of rhythm, the raw honesty of simple melodies, all of it soothed something deep inside me. I wasn't good at singing, not even close, but no one there cared. We laughed, practiced, and created a space where I could simply exist without being compared, judged, or doubted. To rebuild my confidence with English, I started writing a journal each evening. Some entries were messy. Some were painfully honest. But they reminded me that my voice still mattered. One night, on an impulse, I created a tiny blog to share my journey. I posted short reflections about pain, trust, resilience, and small joys. I expected maybe 5 readers. Instead, dozens of strangers found my posts and left comments filled with empathy. Their words did not fix my past, but they made the path ahead feel less lonely. A former colleague, Ethan, also reached out after seeing one of my entries. We had worked together years ago, and he had always been calm, respectful, and warm in a quiet way. He sent simple messages. Hope your day is gentle. Don't forget to eat something warm. You're doing better than you think. He never asked for more, never tried to step into my personal life. He was simply a gentle encouragement in moments when my resolve weakened. Months passed, and one evening my phone buzzed with a familiar name. Marcus. He wanted to talk, to explain, to fix things. He said he regretted everything and wished to rebuild our marriage. But I had changed in ways he could no longer understand. The woman he betrayed was gone, replaced by someone who finally knew her own worth. I listened to his apology with a calm heart, then told him the truth. I won't return to the place where I lost myself. Choosing peace over old love was not easy, but it was necessary. Walking away felt like closing a chapter with steady hands. This period became the most transformative of my life. I learned to stand on my own, to speak kindly to myself, to value my dreams, and to embrace solitude without fear. For the first time in years, I wasn't surviving. I was growing. I sit on the small balcony of Nora's apartment, watching the lights of River Pine shimmer across the quiet river. The night breeze is gentle, carrying the distant sound of laughter from the streets below. For the first time in a long while, the world feels calm, not because everything is perfect, but because I am finally at peace with myself. I know my journey is far from over. Healing is not a straight line, and there are days when the memories still sting. But I have stepped into a new chapter of my life, lighter, clearer, and more honest. A chapter where I choose myself, my truth, and my freedom. When I look back, my story unfolds in 7 distinct colors. Happiness, suspicion, pain, heartbreak, loneliness, awareness, recovery. Each stage shaped me. Each stage taught me something about trust, courage, and love. And now, I want to leave a message for anyone listening to my story. Trust is the heart of every relationship. When it breaks, you have the right to choose the path that brings you peace. You are not obligated to stay in a place where your soul grows smaller. You are allowed to leave. You are allowed to rebuild. You are allowed to begin again. Before I close this chapter, I want to ask you something. If this were your story, would you forgive, or would you walk away? Your answer might reveal more about your heart than you realize. Thank you for listening to my journey. If you found comfort, reflection, or strength in my words, I invite you to stay connected. Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to follow the channel for more emotional English listening stories.